Hi, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. You know, I always said this is my theme when I open the show up. I never know who's going to walk through them damn doors. And tonight, I'm even more surprised at who's walked through my door. You ever wonder what it's like to be in Hollywood and all of a sudden you get a phone call and you got to do a stunt for, let's say, Nicole Kidman, what's some other famous? Vivica Fox, Sharon Stone. What that must be like. Today, we have a young lady who's done that and a hell of a lot of other things and still doing miraculous things, not only in the community, for family, but always reinventing herself. I'd like to welcome to the show the one, the only, the stunt woman herself, Valerie, what's the last name?
Banister.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Trey.
How many times I say what's your last name? Because I don't ever call you your last name when we're talking on the phone.
I know, you call me Val. Hey, yeah. Val, it's like, you know.
You're in Indianapolis. What about you in Indianapolis?
Well, I'm passing through Indy. You know,
you can at least lie and say I had to make a stop here.
I mean, I'm passing through, and then I called you. You know, we're gonna keep it Jaguar, right? Real, right? Okay. So,
so you're in Indianapolis, but let's go back a little bit. Let's tell the viewers a little bit about who you are first before we get into some serious topics.
Well, I am. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
I am a veteran. I am a mother. I am a believer. I am a friend. I am a sister. I am a daughter, a caretaker, a stunt woman. I'm whatever I need to be when I need to be that. Restaurateur.
You just got everything.
A little bit of everything.
So when you talk about, what was it like growing up for you? I mean, you just didn't all of a sudden say you're going to get in the field of being all of these different athletes on your resume. What was it like for you growing up in Brooklyn?
Well, growing up for me in Brooklyn was very interesting. I was raised by my great-grandparents and my grandmother. Mm-hmm. And it was one of those things. My dad played football for Iowa. He was a quarterback for Iowa.
Wait a minute, who was your dad?
My dad's name is Cornelius Banister.
Was he a starter?
Was he a what?
Was he a starter?
He was supposed to go to Grambling, didn't go to Grambling, ended up going to Iowa. That's who gave him a full ride, paid for everything. That's where he graduated from. Okay. And my dad had me when he was in college, and so make sure he finished school. Okay. I was born in Iowa, and 7 hours later, I was in Brooklyn, New York.
How did you wind up going to Brooklyn, New York 7 hours later?
After I was born. Everything was fine. My mom had me naturally. They hopped in the car and was like, we going. After I was born, they drove from Iowa back to Brooklyn, New York, and dropped me off with my grandparents and my great-grandparents.
What was the reason, though? I mean,
they were in school, so they were still in school and all of that. So it was to make sure that they finished school, that there was, kind of making sure that he finished his task.
You was young. Did you?
I was a baby. I was a newborn.
Yeah. So when did you actually start being around your mom and dad?
So my real mother, I did not meet her until about 18 years ago. I found her.
Whoa.
Yes.
Whoa. Okay.
I know this is a Lifetime made-for-TV movie.
Well, we getting ready. We might do more than 30 minutes here, for real. Okay, so let's back up a minute. Your father got a full ride for Iowa.
Football scholarship for Iowa.
Had you.
Got my mother pregnant, had me. After I was born, drove me.
Your dad drove you to
him Brooklyn, and my mother both.
And your mother both.
And my mother, my biological mother's from Chicago, from Chi-Town. So that's why I'm passing through Indy for this trip, because I stopped to see some friends. I used to live in Indianapolis. Yeah. And the city is near and dear to me. and stop by, see a few folks, family, all of that here, and then head into Chicago either tonight or first thing in the morning to bury my mother.
To bury him? That's right.
Yep. She lost her battle to cancer. 8 years.
You mentioned it's amazing how the universe works, and I appreciate you taking time to come on the show. And that this was, I knew somebody had passed in your family, but I didn't get the full.
To know who, right?
Right. Edward shared that with me, and I was like, he didn't go into details. And I know this is if it's difficult, then we don't have to even go down that route. But you did say you found your mother at 18 years old. So when your mom...
Not at 18 years old, 18 years ago.
18 years ago.
Yes. So I was actually turning, it was for like my 40th birthday. A couple of years before that, I was like in my 30s. I had a list of about 300 and some odd names that I had been sitting on for about 2 years. And instead of paying for each individual name through one of those like U.S. name search type things,
right,
I said, let me highlight this because, I'm a techie, too. That's the other thing I do.
Oh, okay. Jack of all trades and master of all of it.
Jane of all trades. That's why they call me Lady Make It Happen.
Okay.
And so turned around, highlighted the list, sat on it for about 24 months. Right. And one day I was on the phone talking to a family member, and I hovered over one of the hyperlinks, and I could see embedded in the hyperlink were addresses. So I started actually Google searching them on the map to see if they really were addresses, and they were. And I built this list to start contacting to reach out to find my real mother. And when I did that, the first 2 names I selected, and I did it based upon numbers because numbers are important to me. My real mother was number 10 on the list out of 300 some odd names. Right. And the other number I had picked was number 8. So I'd sent 2 letters out. It was a form letter, not giving too much information. And the first lady called me. And actually, I was living here in Indianapolis.
On Kessler?
And I was off of Kessler, driving. I had just built a house and was driving down the street.
Okay.
And what was so crazy was that the lady called me and she said, "Hi, I just wanted to call and let you know I'm not your mother." But before I could get out to ask her her address, so I can mark it off the list, she hung up. Plus, I was in the car driving to the house. So then I said, well, shoot, I'll find out, later, or maybe I'll call her back to find out what's her address. Moments later, my real mother called. And how I knew that it was my real mother was that I called my uncle/brother in New York. I called him. I called Ernest and I said, I think I found her. And there were questions that he could ask her because he was there when I was first brought to Brooklyn. Right. He asked her a few questions and he was like, "Val, you found her, you found her, you found her." I said, "What?" He was like, "You found her." And that second call was my mother that same day. And that was like September 11th, about 18 years ago.
So let's go back a minute. Why did she leave anyway? Or why did she not return? It's odd.
Well, she wasn't from New York. So she was in college. My mother, when she went to college, she was 16 years old.
Okay.
She was 16 years old in college, freshman in college. Also, my grandparents on my mother's side, they were deceased. So my mother was the youngest of 11. Okay. And then my mother also has an identical twin sister. Holy, so crazy. They were sent to college, and my auntie Shelly went to another school. My mother went to Iowa, and it was one of those things to,
So you meet your mom. Well, you don't meet her, but she calls. What was that like after so many years, and how long did it really affect you? Because as a father, I'm now. And having a father who, my father wasn't there at first, I knew of him, but you always are longing for that connection. You have a connection with these individuals. How long did the connection to want to be with your mom, to know who your mom was, how long did that torment you?
I would say it tormented me because growing up, I really didn't miss out on anything. I had a passport since the age of 5. Traveled internationally with my grandparents, gone all the time. After my dad was finished playing football, he then became a high-ranking officer in the U.S. Army. Worked under General Colin Powell. He was actually there at his like retirement and all these other special ceremonies he had.
I'm glad I know you.
Saw that the other day. And it was just, I didn't really miss out, but I knew that there was something. And what really made me start looking for my mother was that I was engaged to a NASCAR driver. One of the black NASCAR drivers out on the West Coast.
Is it
his name is Troy Adams.
Okay, I was thinking of the
Adams Motorsports Park in Riverside, California. He's now married. Him and his beautiful wife Kara, and his son Truly Adams is on the international kart racing circuit, big time. But I had met Troy. We were engaged to get married. We decided not to, and it was one of those things where I was like, "How can I get married to you and I don't know fully who I am as a person?
Wow,
There's
deep.
still a piece of me that's missing."
That's deep.
And so it was one of those things. He said, "Val, you know, there's something you need to tell me." He said, "But you won't say it. Just say it." We're sitting in the car outside of a house that we were renovating in Riverside, California. And I was just like, how do I tell this man we can't get married?
And I'm pretty sure he was pretty understanding, wasn't he?
He was, because he knew. He was like, there's something you need to tell me that you won't tell me.
Did he sense that you was troubling with this to some degree throughout the relationship? Were there signals, I guess?
I don't, maybe so, but I think he knew, because I was just like, I don't fully know who I am. I know my dad's family, you know. I was like, but there's still that missing piece. Someone can give you the greatest life, right? But then there's still that question of, well, why am I the way that I am? And what makes me think and be the way that I am? My mother was a hustler. Like, you know, I dipped and dabbled in music, all of this. My mother wrote, I found out my mother had wrote a song, had actually helped pen a song. And found this out from talking to her, and she was around, you know, musicians and all kinds of things. And it's funny, even with the restaurant business that I'm doing now in Vegas, my mother used to help run spots in Chicago, and I was never around her. But it's funny because there's certain things that she did historically in her past that I'm doing, you know. But there's
that genetic blueprint.
Some things that are the same, and there's many things that are different.
So, when you find out that your mom was diagnosed, how many years did you get to really spend with her?
It was when my mother first got diagnosed with cancer, my sister and I were talking about this the other day. I drove up from Memphis, Tennessee. My daughter was a patient in and out of Labana Children's Hospital in St. Jude in Memphis. Great staff there, my youngest daughter. And I drove from Memphis to Chicago for my mother's first round of chemo.
Wow.
And she was at Rush Hospital. And I was there. I stayed for a week. I wanted to kind of see the process, see what she had to go through. And my younger sister was the person that was on deck really, you know, around the clock to make sure mom was good. And so then after that, it was kind of just off and on. I'd check on her here and there. And before she passed here, you know, about 3 weeks ago, it was one of those things I just got a feeling that, you know, something was not right. So I picked up the phone. I said, what's really going on? That's what I said. I didn't say, hey, how you doing?
I already know. That's how
I said, yo, what's really going on?
Yeah, that's what I asked. That's how you talk.
I said, what's really going on?
Right.
And she sounded terrible. And then she handed the phone to my sister. And then I said, well, do whatever y'all need to do. I said, I'm going to give it a couple of days. I called her that Saturday after I spoke to her. She sounded a whole lot better. And, you know, it was, you know, kind of off and on here and there. I'd see her. My mother had I tell people with cancer tells a lot about a person's spirit.
Meaning?
When I say that, it's been proven medically that a lot of times when people have cancer, there are things that they're harboring and they're holding on to. Anger, resentment, so many different things that they're allowing it to eat away.
I call it emotional hijack.
Yes. But the person have to let go of whatever issues and problems they have with other people.
Right.
When they hold it and harbor it, their body, the cells, your body can't take it. Therefore making you sick unnecessarily.
Let's go back a minute. when you saw your mother first time face to face, what was that like? Let's go down to Georgia.
Oh, you want to go down there? Okay.
Yeah.
When I first met her, when I first met her, I drove up from Indianapolis to Chicago, and my mother lived in the historic area, Pullman Historic District on the south side of Chicago. I drive up there with my youngest daughter, and I was like, let me go check this woman out. Let me see. I meet my younger sister. I'm looking at her, and I'm like, okay. She a little short thing. So you know.
You short too? What you want a little
no,
short?
No, 4'11"
okay,
short.
She's short.
Yeah. She like 4'11" short. I'm not 4'11". I'm like 5'6", 5'7". So I'm looking at her like, okay. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, all right. She's talking and I'm like, all right, interesting. You could tell that she was kind of nervous.
Well, I would be too.
Because,
guess who's coming to dinner?
Well, the thing was, I think when you keep secrets.
And then the
secrets
yeah.
get exposed, like so much going on right now in media with a whole bunch of other things. You know, it's kind of like,
what's really going on?
Yeah, what's really going on? You know, I'm just saying.
So you actually had a good experience with your mom.
It was a good experience because finally I was able to see, right, the vessel God used to get me here.
Okay.
The other thing that was interesting was that I lived in Chicago for a little bit. I'm a Navy vet, and was my last duty station was Naval Hospital, Great Lakes, or should I say Great Mistakes. And
Great what?
Great Mistakes. That's what they call it, Great Mistakes.
Okay.
And so I went to go see her, and it was, you know, it's just one of them things. When I saw her, she worked in the medical field. That's what I did in the military. I was a medic in the military. So, it was, you know.
So you found out you guys had a lot in common.
A lot in common. Family was there. I had family driving through my drive-through, like next to where I lived. I lived in the old Chicago Bank building, a historic building off base in Chicago. And I had aunts driving through that many a times I probably looked out my window and my aunties was sitting in the car at a KFC getting something to eat.
Your story sounds like most people would come out with a lot of, like you said, internal emotional hijacked
like issues.
Yeah. But you appeared to say, I'm blessed that this opportunity has now happened, and I'm gonna continue to make the best out of this.
It could be a lot worse, is what I always think to myself.
Okay.
It could have been a lot worse, but it wasn't. You know, like I mentioned, my mother there's some issues my mother had, and I look back and I go, thank God I was raised by some old wise folks in New York City and from the South. And so, you know, it's just one of them things. You could either allow it to control you and destroy you, or you can, what they say, when you serve lemons, make lemonade. You could either make lemonade, or you can sit there, eat and be like that and make an ugly looking face. And
you since I've known you, you've definitely have made a lot of lemonade. But one thing I can honestly say, it wasn't bad lemonade, because I never known you not to have that universal enlightenment. Like you a breath of fresh air when you're in anybody's presence. Even I remember times when I was getting ready to start the studio and you was doing your thing, you took the time and was like, okay, Andre, this is what you need to do. You need to do this and do this. And I'm thinking, well, she don't even really know me that well. She's willing to give me all of this insight, which I thank you for, because it literally helped me to keep going. Sometimes that's what we need. You know, we can be as strong as hell. I tell people, just because I look like Superman, because I may appear to be an Incredible Hulk, I still can get hit with that kryptonite at any given time.
All day.
And you need that extra lift up. So, I'm God rest your mother's soul, and I'm glad you got the opportunity to really bond with her and meet her and realize that was the vessel that got you here. Let's talk about another vessel. Let's talk about this superhuman strength that you got. What got you into being a stunt person?
Well, I'm going to say thank you to my mentor, April Whedon. Now she's white, formerly April Whedon Washington. She's been on, she's done the Sons for Thin Line Between Love and Hate when they jump out the window at the end. That's
okay.
Deliver Us from Eva, Blade, Scorpion King, Bruce Almighty. That was my mentor. She kind of took me under her wing when I lived out in LA. And she said, "Girl, I don't know why I'm helping you, but I'm going to help you."
Did you want to be a stunt person?
Well, it was funny. I was with the NASCAR driver, his family, over 40 years in the racing business, actually a black family in racing, helped a lot of major race car drivers.
Willie T.
Willie T. Ribs and all of them. They know the Addams family very well because they've been established in racing. They've even done an ESPN series during Black History Month on them. Amazing family. I still keep in touch with them to this day. I actually dropped in on them a couple of years ago when I went to bury my ex-husband.
I like when you drop in on people.
The harder they fall. I just kind of popped in, was like, "Hey, y'all in the neighborhood? I'm in the neighborhood. Y'all around? Yeah, come on in." So, yeah, it's just they just that family, and then just with everything with racing, I learned a lot from them because me being a little black girl from Brooklyn, you don't see no NASCAR in Brooklyn, New York. You just don't.
Right.
Okay. So I meet this guy. He's in racing. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I learned a lot that how racing targets women, because women make household buying decisions. I learned a lot. I sat back and said, I learned about Red Bull and Mark, and there's a lot of little things I learned along the way. That's why I go, nothing ever happens by mistake.
Did you learn how to jump out in front of a car or flip?
Well, for him, here's what happened. He said, "Val," he said, I was like, "Oh, I want to drive one of these little go-karts. I want to drive one." He said, He said, "You have no fear." And I said, "What?" He said, "This is like owning Magic Kingdom, Disney World, Disneyland." He was like, "You have no fear." He was like, "I can't let you get in one of these.
That makes you dangerous."
So I said, I'm going to fix you. I was like, I'm going to fix you. So one morning, we have to wake up early in the morning. And I never used to be an early morning person. I was always like later at night. I'm like, I can be a night owl. I was like, I'm going to go help him one morning and maybe like help gas up a few carts and all of that so I could sneak in and get a ride. And I was able to sneak in and get a ride. And then from then on, I was like, ooh-wee, I'm all for this. All I had to do is put on a neck brace, a helmet, and I could drive about 75 miles an hour with no seatbelt and just pop your body in the seat. Yep. And so ever since then, and going back to April, I heard her on one of the radio shows in LA, and I called, couldn't get her. Then I called the SAG office in LA. And the lady that answered the phone, the receptionist, I don't know who you are, but I'm just going to say thank you. Because if it wasn't for her, I would not have met April. And even to this day, here it is.
Is Screen
Actors Guild.
Okay.
Yes, Screen Actors Guild. She answered the phone. She said, "Honey, I can't give you her information." She knew who she was. She said, "But I can take your information and I'll pass it along." So then she did. She did that. She did it. That lady, whoever answered that phone, did exactly what she promised
that was her
to
job
do.
Title too. Yeah.
And so she did that, and it was like either June 3rd or June 4th on my birthday, I got a call, and it was April calling me. And they were having the Red Bull Stunt Awards in LA, and they were hosting a party for Amanda Foster, who is the black stunt woman. She's from Europe. She doubled Halle Berry in Die Another Day.
Ooh.
And so I was invited out. It was a big party with like Tommy Davidson, Brian McKnight, Desiree Coleman, and I showed up. It was me plus one, me and Troy. We went out there and just kind of was there. And April took me in under her wing, and from there it was like history. I got to work on Miss Congeniality 2, Spider-Man 2. It was
What's that like?
Cool.
I saw Miss Congeniality. All of them, I might add.
And my grandmom got to actually go to set with me for Miss Congeniality 2 when we filmed in Vegas, when Sandra Bullock was dressed up like the showgirl and all that. Yeah, my grandmom, I call her my mom because that's who raised me. Pinky, hi mom. And she got to go on set with me and hang out, and she was just like, y'all do this all day. She said, man, they feed y'all good on these sets. I said,
what's
yes,
it like
they do.
to see Sandra Bullock and knowing that you got to do a stunt? For her,
It's one of those things. Well, she's running through like the scene, if you remember Miss Congeniality 2, she's running through like the crowd watching the show at Treasure Island.
Yeah.
And so she's running through the crowd. She goes to like knock me down. There's like agents and people, and Regina King and all of them are in it, and Dolly Parton. And it's work. I think after a while, it's work. Right. At first, you're like, really? Okay. But it's work. It's a job. It's just like you get up every day, and I've done everything from being a receptionist to an admin assistant to,
right.
A project manager assistant, project manager, all of that. It's a job. They pay you to do this job. And after a while, famous people are no different than regular people.
Really?
Everybody puts on their clothes the same way, just about.
So you just
have more public exposure.
Yeah, they say, hey, Val, you ready to jump out a window today?
Just be like, okay. You get your sheet that shows you kind of the scene, like which scenes are being filmed for that day and all that. And then you go to work. What's your toughest
stunt? The three toughest stunts, and what movies were they?
Man.
Die Hard 5.
No, Dre. I'm gonna say when I worked on it was Spider-Man 2.
Really?
When I worked on Spider-Man 2, I actually drove, and it was funny because I went to set. I drove in high heel shoes, and they didn't think I had on high heel boots, and I was actually one of the only female precision drivers driving on that stunt, and they looked at me like, "You gonna drive in those?" I sure am.
What does that mean for the viewers? Precision driving.
So when you drive for movies, a lot of movies you'll see. Sometimes people are like racing through. You'll see like they're moving through like high speed. Yeah. There's actually a camera on this other device that's moving, either weaving kind of in between you as you're driving. So for precision driving, you have to make sure that you hit your mark. You cannot miss that mark, because that could be someone else's life.
Yeah.
Correct. That can be someone else's life. So you got to make sure you hit the marks. You got to make sure you on point.
So when you see a movie like Mission Impossible 2 and 3 and John Woo and
John Wick, I pick them apart sometimes, because if you ever notice, they're cutting away. I don't want to tell all the secrets, right, but they cut away in certain scenes. They do that because depending upon, different angle shots, over the shoulder, things of that nature, they want you to have that action, right? That action feel.
Okay.
I can be a little critical sometimes when I see certain movies, because I'm like, oh, they did this, oh, they did that, oh, they forgot to change this person's hair, or oh, they put the double in there. Sometimes
I see that too, because I'm a movie guy. I look at it and I notice. So especially when I was watching The Avengers with Samuel Jackson, and they was going after his car, and he said, let me take the wheel. And I'm like, man, he's like really like, you're into this driving. And you go, man, how do you create something that impactful? Especially because you're dealing with also what we call them, stagehands. You still got other people's lives there, or what they call it. It's on the tip of my tongue. What do you call it? People that just come there to be a part of it.
Oh, you have extras.
Extras, that's it.
That's how I started out. And I started out like that, extras. So, shout out to Central Casting in LA. Shout out to Robbie Reed. I mean, there's tons of casting agents and companies that they put people in position to kind of follow their dreams.
Let's go back to that. You was in shoes. You was at Spider-Man 3, and you showed up, and you had to do precision driving.
I was Spider-Man 2. Yeah, Spider-Man 2. And the precision drive, it's just, they just tell you, we're going to work on this scene today. You're going to drive this vehicle, or you're gonna drive that taxi, and you're gonna kind of hit these marks, and then take a couple of shots, and then they'll be like, okay, that was good. Or if it wasn't good, they'll be like, all right. Or if we need to stop, take a break, they're gonna film something else, and then come back to us and shoot something, shoot it again. Or they feel we need to do another take. Then
what's another movie that you had a tough role?
A tough role? I mean, I'm gonna tell you the one that hurt me the most, that I could not do at the time because I did not know how to ride a motorcycle.
Mission Impossible?
No, it was April's doubled Halle Berry in Swordfish.
I love that.
And so when she's hanging in the green outfit in Swordfish, that's my mentor, that's my homie, that's April. And she said, Val, they were looking for a double for Halle Berry for Catwoman. And that movie, her stunts were on a Ducati, a very powerful motorcycle. I have received 2 contacts to be considered to double. At the time, I was a lot thinner than I am now. But I was like 0% body fat. I was like in the craziest shape ever. And they were like, Val, you should consider, going for this. Can
you ride a Ducati?
I cannot ride. I can ride a motorcycle. I cannot ride a Ducati. That's a very powerful bike.
I used to.
So my thing was, I didn't want to kill myself.
Right.
You understand? So I was like, that's some good money, but I don't want to kill myself. And to this day, I go, man, it was just an honor to even be considered. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Do you have any regrets for not just? You don't seem like that person that would take a challenge.
I would take a challenge, but I'm not going to kill myself.
You get in a car and your boyfriend at the time told you not, because you're dangerous, and you got in a car. So what's the difference here now?
I think the difference
is you got wiser.
As you get older, you get wiser. As you have children, you're a little bit more conscious of the decisions that you make, because it doesn't just affect you. It also affects your loved ones. And it really took my dad, my grandpa, one day, me flying around all over the place when I worked for Starbucks corporate. He said to me, honey, how much longer are you going to keep doing this?
Wow.
And you don't think about that, right? When you're making money, you're just like, oh, I'm making money. I want to have this lifestyle. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want my kids to have this, Sometimes certain things, it's just not worth it in the end. When you really, as you get wiser and you think about it, certain things aren't worth it. So it's like...
What do you miss about the career? You walked away, and we're going to get into your new ventures, but what is it that you miss about it now?
I miss all the access.
At least you're honest.
I miss all the access. No, but I still get access to certain little things thanks to all I call them my ticket fairies and angels and people that still look out for me. But yeah, I miss the access to certain things. But then again, it's like it then calls for a lot of like networking all the time and just kind of being out there. And with the lifestyle that I have now, I don't have the room to kind of be out there like that, like I used to. When I say be out there, like always being somewhere, being visible, being kind of in someone's face to say, hey, I'm here. Right. Because, I mean, out of sight, out of mind with anything. So you have to kind of maintain and keep those relationships going. And, I miss the access.
But now you got a whole new venture.
Yes.
Tell the viewers about what you got going on now.
I am an operational partner of one of the only black-owned sports bar and grills in Henderson, Nevada, just right there in Las Vegas, right down the street from the airport in Las Vegas. It's called Penalty Box. We do live entertainment. Actually, this weekend while I'm here, the crew is back there kind of holding it down. Right. We got like 6 or 8 events back to back this weekend. It's like kind of crazy. So, hey guys.
So what made you decide to do it in Vegas versus California? Because you mentioned you had ties in California. You could have easily had gone to Chicago. You could have went back to New York and bought your idea. Why Vegas?
I got pulled in actually by an old business partner who I used to do Century Club Saturdays with in Las Vegas. This was before they allowed any African Americans to do parties on the Strip in Vegas. So it was Jam and D. He's now a pastor. Hi, D. Hi, Dennis. And Squally C. Jerry Campbell. What's up, Jerry? And I met them when I was a flight attendant. Okay, you know, wearing many hats. I was a flight attendant. I met them when I lived in Vegas. I was based in Vegas. I met them. Then we kind of joined forces and did Century Club Saturdays, which was tied to Century Club in LA. So when Century Club would do a party, a show, or whatever on Fridays, then that artist would then come to Vegas Saturday night at the Blue Note.
Wow.
Formerly it's like the Blue Note attached to the Aladdin, which no longer exists in Vegas now. The former Aladdin is now Planet Hollywood.
Okay.
So we would do the official concert after parties. So we've done, you know, we did parties for like Wyclef Jean, Mary J. Blige, Yvonne, all those folks, all the so-called urban shows, what they would label as urban back then. So, I got pulled in because of Jerry on this one. And that was for the Silk 30th, for Silk, the group,
right,
for their 30-year anniversary.
You mentioned minority owned. Has there been any challenges that you noticed being minority owned in Vegas? Where when you think about Vegas and its history, let's be real, it's tied to mafia. It's tied to mafia connection, and to be a woman of color going to Vegas, it's almost. And let me clarify something. Some things are still controlled.
Yeah.
Yeah. So any things that you struggle with opening your doors in this area?
I know at first it was very challenging for my partner, who did a lot of the footwork with getting like the liquor licenses and all of that. There's a lot of red tape, a lot of hoops you have to jump through. Right?
Who you know?
Sometimes who you know, or just going down to get the necessary licenses, and either not having something or not knowing you need to have something in order to complete the process to be properly licensed. That's how the city makes their money, right? They make their money off of you being a licensed business, for them to be able to collect taxes from you and hit you with all these, you know, fees. So for me, it hasn't been a challenge. I like a challenge when it comes down to certain things, especially business-wise, especially if they say you can't do something. If somebody say you can't before you open the door? I'd be like,
Did somebody say you can't before you open the door?
Well, so in order to get a liquor license in Vegas, you have to first have the space. Build out the bar, get it approved, go through all of that. That can take, and for the spot, it took about a year and a half.
And you're still paying
rent? And you're
rent?
still paying, correct.
Yeah, you're still paying rent,
correct.
Utilities.
And you have to pay
and employees.
Well, the thing is, you're not operating yet. You're just building out. Then they need to come see the space. And you're not open yet, operating for the bar and all of that, because you're a sports bar and all that. So you really need that liquor license to make them. I mean, any business person who owns a restaurant knows that bar is what makes the money.
Right.
The food, there's, decent markup on food, but that alcohol, the liquor sales is what does it. And you need that liquor license to really thrive.
How much did you had to learn to be successful in operating? Because look, you came from.
I'm still learning.
Yeah.
As we go, I'm still learning. There's still some things I'm learning, because with the way the business is set up, we're in Henderson, Nevada, and I mean literally Green Valley Parkway. We're at the corner of Green Valley Parkway and Sunset, for anyone that's familiar with Las Vegas. And so Sunset runs along the airport, runs to Las Vegas Boulevard, and then where Green Valley Parkway is, it runs parallel to Las Vegas Boulevard, but it's some streets over from Las Vegas Boulevard. And that Green Valley Parkway, kind of straight down the middle, is the dividing line between City of Las Vegas and Henderson. The rules of engagement for events, for having a business there, are completely different than if we were just on the other side of the road.
Really, it's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. And you don't know that until you're in it, right? To go, gosh, if we were just over there on that side of the road, then we could get away with staying open to this time, doing this, doing that. With us being in Henderson, we have to close at 2 a.m.
With all the stuff that you know now, would you, looking at your career before we wrap up, looking at your career, you've done so many things. Starbucks, flight attendant.
Apple. I worked for Apple.
Stunt woman, car racer, mother. You don't done it all. I mean, the list can go on.
I'm still doing it. I'm considering going to get my pilot's license too. So I am, and it's so funny because I was a flight attendant. Right, I love to travel. Anyone that knows me knows I'm like, where we going?
And you know what's so funny? You were sitting here before we started, and you was actually acting like you was an airplane.
What was I doing? What I
you was like going. This is some vow such and such.
When I was like,
that's just, you know.
when I was doing my like, welcome aboard.
Spirit
Airlines flight. That.
How important is it for the young people? Let me rephrase this. What's more important to you? Is it more important to have the knowledge, the expertise in your career, or was it more important for you to establish the contacts that allowed you to open up the doors?
Man, that's interesting. It's difficult to say one is more important than the other.
And that's true. But based on experience, that's just you.
I'm going to tell you, for me, it's always been about the experience.
Okay.
Not knowing, and then I would say secondary was the contacts, because all of the contacts that I have now have been from various experiences. Ones that I was willing to just be like, okay. Like when I worked radio in Atlanta for one of the top radio stations in Atlanta, and even went and interned. I was willing to go help out without getting paid. Not really thinking back. Now that I look back, not thinking like, man, I want to do this for the connects and this and that. No, I did it because there was someone from my neighborhood that worked promotions for one of the stations, needed help. And I was like, I'll help you. You know, I'm just that person. I would say that's my love language, acts of service, right? Mm-hmm. You see someone needs help, you just help them. And then organically things happen from that. And so I would say the experience and the knowledge.
What are we missing today before we wrap up? You now have your children that are grown and doing well. You got a new business.
One is almost grown. Well, she is grown. Technically, she's 18.
She's 18.
But she will be graduating here in a couple of weeks, going to UNLV.
You see,
she golfs. She's a golfer. She doesn't want to keep doing it, but I'm going to try to nudge her to keep doing it.
What do you think we need to do with this generation? Because I even tell my daughter, you guys have so much accessibility. You can be, like I was watching the Today Show, and this lady had a group, she was singing. It went viral simply because Taylor Swift said, I like your music. Next thing you know, she's on Today Show.
All right.
I mean, like, get real. I wish we had that kind of accessibility. But with that accessibility also comes laziness, the ability not to go out there and really know what it's like. You said something earlier in the show. You said, I was with my mom, but I'm glad that I was raised by wise women that probably taught you something different, because now your mother is grew up in a particular age that your grandmother them probably had different set values. So go back to the question, what would you tell the generation now that we're dealing with based on your experiences and everything that you went through?
With the generation now, they're very smart. They are, I would say they're very compassionate about certain things. And then there's certain things that we know were challenges for us growing up, that certain barriers have been broken down so they don't have to experience those things now. So for them, they don't care. It's kind of oblivious to them. Mm-hmm. I would suggest or share with young people today to watch what you say, because they have no filter. Young people nowadays are not. They have no filter. They're gonna say whatever. That's fine. I'm all for speaking your truth, speaking the facts, but just be mindful of what you say now, because it may come back later. Mm. It may come back later to haunt you. So just be very mindful of what comes out of your mouth. Speak life. Don't speak death. Speak life. Because what we say and what we do and our mindset is very powerful. And know that with social media and the access you have now to more than just people in your area, you can reach people on a global scale now. To be culturally aware, not just of your own culture, but of others who may look and see what you do. Mm. Be mindful of that.
Before we wrap up, leave the viewers with something that keeps you going every day, because you definitely are a beast. By no questions asked. Leave the viewers with something that keeps you going every single day.
Thanks, Dre. What keeps me going every single day? I'm grateful for life every day, because there's someone that didn't get a chance to get up to try it again. So just be grateful for the opportunity to even open your eyes, even if you're just laying there. I do that every morning when I wake up. I go like this. Oh, I get to do it again. Really, that's what I go. Oh, really? Okay. All right. Let me try. Look, I get a do-over. All right. And so just, be mindful and have fun. Have fun along the way. And remember, you're only as strong as your network and the people that you're around. So if you got Debbie Downers around you, get rid of them Debbie Downers. Get folks that are going to push you to be your best self. Because if you get yes people around you, or people that are okay with you just being mediocre or okay, those are not your people.
Right.
Because a real friend's going to be like, now, you was wrong for that.
Right. Right. I know.
I'm like, check me, because I got a couple of good folks with me. They here in the studio too with me. Hey y'all, hey fam. That they be like, girl, you was tripping. Right. And for that, it's those are relationships and contacts and people that's what you need. Your people will push you to be better every day, and those are I just say, keep those kind of people around you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been once again another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Crayton Show.